thought I was going to start streaming. All right, there we go. Bang. Okay. Oh, y'all are in. Oh, okay. All right. Hey, everybody. How you doing? Hey, if you're catching this on Facebook, you're probably going to see this on replay. Do me a favor and type replay in the comments. We are a few minutes tardy to the party today, so I apologize for that. I have my calendar all mixed up, but I want to make sure. Oh, let me come on screen. That would help too. All right, there we go. All right, I'm gonna act like I'm starting over. Hey, how y'all doing today? All right, I appreciate y'all joining me. I appreciate your patience for waiting for me to get the mix up. And of course, I was in the final throes of getting my slides together to make sure I get this information correct. So rather than just rushing to be on time for y'all, I decided to wait and get my slides right because I think I always got some good juice for y'all today. Hey, let me know where you're watching from. Drop your location down in the comments. I am in the south suburbs of Chicago, Illinois, and I'll be sure to follow back and see where you guys are watching from. Today, I am rocking slavery did benefit white people. That is part of our discussion as usual, right? We get that nonsense that come out of Florida. They just be spewing any and everything. But we had a good conversation about Florida and many other things in our Black to School event that happened yesterday. Hopefully you had an opportunity to catch that or caught the replay. We got some upcoming events coming soon as well. So I want to jump into travel talks. So let's get the show started. Let me bring up my screen and kind of dive into the conversation that we're going to have today. I'm going to try to go quickly, but I got some good information that I want to share with you. So I'll try not to sacrifice it all in the name of time. But check this out. Let me open the show. Welcome to Travel Talks, where we embark on a journey of discovery with Sankofa experiences, powered by Urban Intellectuals. I'm your host, Freddie Taylor, the CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals, here to guide you through our African diaspora's rich history and culture. Sankofa Experiences is more than just travel, it's a movement. We dive deep into our roots across Africa and the diaspora, turning every journey into a powerful connection with our ancestors. Our mission? To make the exploration of Black history accessible, inspiring, and informative. Join us as we share insights from our travels, celebrate our history, and foster a deeper understanding of our collective identity. With Sankofa Experiences, every destination is a step closer to home. Let's explore together. Welcome to Travel Talks. Hey, welcome to Travel Talks, everybody. I appreciate y'all joining us. As usual, Urban Intellectuals has a lot going on in and around the company, but let me first explain a little bit of what you're watching, right? So again, I'm Freddie Taylor, CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals. We are behind the Sankofa Experiences. That is the travel arm of our company where we take people on Black history travel experiences around the world. And we are putting on Travel Talks. This is our weekly talk show centered around travel and these historical experiences that we are bringing our community to, right? The word Sankofa means to go back and get it. It's a word out of the Twi language of Ghana that means to go back and get it, specifically the Akan or the Ashanti people. But the word Sankofa means to go back and get it. So go back into your history, go back into your culture and bring that forward with you, which is why we call our Sankofa experiences, these Black history travel experiences, that, right? So I just wanted to alert you to that and who you're watching and everything that's going on. I know we got a lot happening in and around the company. If this is your first time here at Travel Talks, give me a 1 in the comments. Give me a 2 in the comments if you've been here before. I'm just always curious to see who's popping into our discussions. Hey, Patrick, appreciate you joining us for the first time. Hey, Sylvia in Atlanta. We got Marcia in Baltimore. Eric is in South Bend. I appreciate y'all again. I am in the south suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. Hey, Anita, appreciate you always joining us, sister. Bay Area, Yolanda. All right. Hey, Sylvia, first timer. All right. Appreciate y'all. I'll promise to be on my best behavior, but we got some good information I want to share with you, and share our travel experiences. Right there we go. I'll get it out at some point. Philadelphia for the first time. Appreciate you joining us. All right, as we do around the show, I like to let you know kind of what's going on in and around Urban Intellectuals. Again, we always got a lot going on here at the company. So this week, Wednesday, tomorrow, September the 4th, we have our history started before slavery webinar, right? Information session. So I believe Ashley's going to drop the link in the comments so to give you an opportunity to sign up if you're interested in that talk. That'll be me delivering my talk on our history started before slavery, why that's important, where I pick the story up, and kind of how I bring it to our presence and make it relevant to us today, right? I hate the conversation centered around our Black history and culture that starts at slavery. We are much older and deeper people than that. So let's stop with that nonsense, right? So we're having that webinar tomorrow, so you're definitely invited to join that. It's absolutely free. The link is in the comments. The UI membership is live, right? Our Black history classes for adults is available. We are pushing our membership drive. So we had a drive yesterday at our Black to School event. I'll talk a little bit more about it tomorrow. And you're going to see this ramping up, right? So we have our slate of Black history professors teaching live Black history classes inside of the Urban Intellectuals universe. And we're inviting people to come and join us. Thursday, if you're interested in going to Ethiopia, anyone interested in Ethiopia, right? A really good travel experience. We're having a session on Thursday to talk about that. Specifically, I'll be talking about 3 reasons that Ethiopia was never colonized, right? So that is going to be a good conversation, but we're also going to talk about traveling to Ethiopia and the experiences that are happening ahead. We're going for the first time as a company in 2025. We're super excited about it and definitely want to invite everyone to come on out and have this experience with us. So that is on the slate as well. All right, let's dive into East Africa, right? Let's have this conversation about East Africa. Now that I gave you a little bit about what's going on in and around the company, believe it or not, that's kind of like the tip of the iceberg, right? There's a lot more happening at Urban Intellectuals. You can always check us out at urbanintellectuals.com. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention it, but the links to sign up for those other sessions are available. So if you're interested in joining our Black history classes, you can click the link. It's down in the comments. And then also if you're interested in Ethiopia, that link is down there as well, right? So we're going to talk about that on Thursday. So that's Wednesday and Thursday in and around the company. We're going to do our Black to School special Saturday. Again, we're going to run it back for those individuals that might have been busy yesterday, so you can check your emails and all of that going. Okay, I asked you, was you ready for our discussion centered around exploring East and Central Africa? And then I went into some other stuff, but there's a lot, right? All right, so we're going to keep it moving. Now, this has been part of our series where we've been talking about the different regions of Africa in particular, right? So let me just go back to the beginning. Those of you that's been here, just bear with us. Those of you who are just joining, we've done all of the other regions before, right? So if you jump over to our YouTube channel or if you're in our Facebook group, you should be able to identify the past versions of this. Ashley, let's put on our list to organize this information on our website, right? So we should have a drop down on the site that says Travel Talks. People should be able to click those and then go back and watch any of the previous versions of the show that we have made available, right? Hey, this is a work in progress, right? So we're coming up with the ideas as we go here. But we want to remind everyone that Africa is a continent. It is the second largest continent on the planet. There are 54 recognized countries. I was in some circles and I hear Africa actually recognizes a 55th country, right? So I'm doing my homework and research centered around that. Apparently Europe and the West they reject this notion of a 55th country there in Africa, right? So this is why through the media lens, we don't hear that type of conversation. Let me be particular with my language, right? But as things are unfolding on the continent, if they recognize it, we'll start recognizing it. So I just need to do a little bit more research and homework about this. So we'll dig into that. Then there's 5 regions in Africa, right? On the continent of Africa, right? There's North, West, East, Central, and the Southern regions. So today we're going to talk about the East and Central regions. We've done 3 other sessions on this where we've covered the Northwest and Southern region, right? So we're lumping East and Central together. So we're dealing with that brown and red area landmass there moving across the continent. So let me keep going. So I want to start with Central Africa. There are 11 countries in the region of Central Africa, right? Angola, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Democratic Republic of the Congo, the DRC, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Rwanda, Burundi, and Sao Tome and Principe. I hope I'm probably butchering these names. Listen, blame it on my heart. Now, blame it on my head. Now my heart, I'm growing, right? Africa has always been so hands-off for us, right? We're used to pronouncing Polish names and respecting Italian names, right? But really just talking about, oh, I can't pronounce these African names. So I'm going to do my best, but I'll make sure that I go back and correct myself. I had to look those countries up on the map. I had no idea where it was on the continent of Africa, but it's actually it's a island outside of I would guess that would be modern day Angola in that particular area. Really small islands over there, which we don't really have a lot of conversation centered around Africa and the islands of Africa. That might be a pretty interesting discussion, particularly talking about travel, the islands of Africa. So just a thought out there for Ashley to consider. By the way, I keep mentioning Ashley, right? Sister Ashley is our travel coordinator here at Urban Intellectual. She is over the Sankofa Experiences. So anytime you shoot an email to support at Sankofa Experiences or support at Urban Intellectuals, it'll likely end up in her hands and she'll probably do the follow-up. So you will hear me mentioning that name for a while. So I just wanted to acknowledge her and all the work that she does. Okay, so historical events shaping Central Africa. Let's talk a little bit about it. I got a lot here actually at the end, so I'm going to try to blaze through this quickly so I can get to really like part of the crux of the matter that I want to speak about. But the Kingdom of the Congo and the Central African slave trade is like a really big piece of this discussion when you're talking about Central Africa in general, right? But the Kingdom of the Congo was established around the 14th century through the 19th century. It's a powerful and influential area. We're talking a large landmass, right? That embodied parts of Gabon, the DRC, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Angola, and other areas. So it's a pretty large kingdom. But if you're in our Black history classes, you will start to understand that when you come across large kingdoms in Africa, they're really most of the time, I'm gonna say most of the time, I'm not 1,000% sure on this, but most of the time they are in control of the trade routes through the country, right? Whether that's north, south, east, and west, but that's really where you find whoever is in control of the trade routes in that particular region generally has the largest empire, right? And that's something that, you know, has been coming more and more apparent as we, one, travel, but two, dig into the history of the African continent with Dr. Aiden, who is our Black history professor. He teaches Black history at the collegiate level, but he's teaching inside of Urban Intellectuals as well. So, and that's becoming more apparent through his lectures and talk and the information that I'm reading and gathering, right? But they were engaged in the African slave trade. These areas were engaged in the African slave trade, not necessarily the Kingdom of the Congo, right? Which there were fractions of it, right, that were involved. And we're going to talk about that in a moment as well. But the Portuguese are really the ones that are really kicking off the slave trade. Here in the Americas, we talk about 1619 being such a prominent number, but the Western slave trade actually started in 1455 with the Portuguese selling around the coast of Africa and snatching Africans off the coast. They couldn't penetrate into Central Africa or the interior of Africa, whether that was Central, North, or whatever, due to the viruses and like malaria and yellow fever and all of that would kill the Europeans. But in 1481, the Portuguese actually built their first fortress or their slave dungeon there in Ghana. That's in 1481. I believe it's Elmina dungeon was built in 1481. So it's just showing you that I'm just trying to show you that the slave trade kicked off long before that. And actually, when I get into this eastern part, I'd show you that it actually started a thousand years before this, before the Western slave trade, right? So let me continue though. But it, they shipped across the Atlantic, the Portuguese from in the late 15th century. But many of the enslaved were taken to Brazil, right? We also traveled to Brazil inside of the inside of our Sankofa experiences. But this is why when we go to Brazil, there are so many Afro-Brazilians in the area, because they were taking them primarily out of modern day Angola, or it was the Kingdom of the Congo, but the modern day Angola, right across the water, taking them into Brazil, right? So there's somewhere in the area of 115 million Afro-Brazilians in Brazil to this day. There's a thick, rich African culture and history there, which is why we're excited to travel there next year again. It's first time going to Brazil as a company as well. So we're really excited about that. But the Dahomey warriors, right? Y'all remember the movie, The Lion, the Woman King and all of that, right? So the Dahomey were in this region as well, right? So some participants in the slave trade, some not, right? It is not as clean cut as that movie portrays it. That is Hollywood playing their games with us with propaganda, but the warriors were real. The all-woman troop is a real thing in the annals of history, and it's quite a discussion. But their military tactics and abilities actually is part of the Haitian Revolution, right? I don't know if a lot of people know this part of the story, but captured in Angola, or modern day Angola, and ending up in Haiti is this woman named Adbaraya Toya. And she is a Dahomey warrior out of this particular area. And she is also part of the strategy team in Haiti when the Haitian Revolution kicks off. So she trains the Haitians in the warfare tactics of the Dahomey, and meeting with the leadership and working with, y'all gonna say black magic and voodoo and all of these spiritual elements, which is part of the Haitian Revolution. They will tell you themselves all about it. But there was a military strategist that was involved in that, and it was a black woman named Adbaraya Toya, right? So we'll talk about that in a deeper context much later, but I love to bring up that point because it kind of ties together all of this, right? One, as Africans in the diaspora, we have to realize that you was a boat ride away from being in these other places that we talk about, right? Like it's literally who came to the shores and which boats did your ancestors get on to decide whether we're Haitian, whether we're Dominican, whether we're Colombian, whether we're Cuban, whether we're Canadian, right? Or English for that matter, right? So it's just, I think we have much more in common than we have differences. And I want us to be careful with alienating ourselves from one another. I'm gonna try to stay focused. But then in this area, I call him the Devil Leopold, right? So there's they call him King Leopold of Belgium, right? So he's a private landowner. Yeah, y'all got to come to some of my lectures, right? But a lot of these modern day African countries, these names, you find that these areas were taken over by private militaries and conquered and then eventually sold to either the British Crown, the French presidency, the French government, or the Spanish government. But it would be private organizations that would go in and fund the military and take over a particular area or region. And this guy, Leopold, right, the Devil Leopold, went into the Congo. He's responsible for killing somewhere between 15 and 17 million Congolese people during his reign of terror, right? This is post the Berlin Conference, which is 1884, 1885 in that area. And then this is when the Europeans met in Germany and Berlin to chop up Africa, right? And to divide the continent into the prizes that they are still enjoying to this day, right? But Leopold goes into the Congo and takes over this area, murder, death, killing people. And this is around the time of the Industrial Revolution. So rubber is one of the main crops that they're pulling out of this area. But of course, there's diamonds and all the light out of this area, right? Africa is rich in resources, and it goes far beyond all of that. But rubber at the time was a pretty important crop. And this is what Leopold is harvesting out of the area and selling it and getting filthy rich in the process. Eventually, he sells the landmass to the Belgian government. Eventually, the revolution with the not the Mau, excuse me. Do I got the next slide in there? Let me see. Oh, I kept going. Okay, but then eventually the revolutions start to happen in the area, and Africa frees itself in the 1950s and the 1960s from being under the thumb of these oppressors. Let me keep going. Trying to bring my slide back up. All right. But it's a really interesting history how everything over there is tied. Now you got that Western slave trade happening. I'm going back, right? Back in 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, even 19th century. You got that Western slave trade happening, but simultaneously you got the Eastern slave trade happening as well. And we're going to go into that when we go into East Africa. But individuals from Central and kind of Western Africa were taken to the East. Now, as Africans in America or Africans in the West, we don't really talk about the Eastern slave trade or the Arab slave trade. I've learned today that they call it the Indian Ocean slave trade. But the countries of East Africa, let me jump into that particular region. There are 15 countries in the region known as East Africa, and that's Ethiopia, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Somalia, boy, I couldn't get that out to save my life. South Sudan, Djibouti, Eritrea, Mozambique, Madagascar, Comoros, Seychelles, and Mauritania. Mauritanians? All right, I'm going to get it, right? And I wanted to name them all because I'm trying to get to the point where I can learn all 54 or 55 African countries, right? So I'm getting through it. All right, but here's 3 key historical facts that are shaping East Africa. The Mau Mau uprising and the struggle for independence happened there in Ethiopia, right? So this is an area that was never, I think I got that backwards. That's supposed to be Kenya. I didn't update. So I was rushing, man. I was rushing towards the end. I was supposed to update that title, so I apologize for that. Right, but Ethiopia, the land of emperors and resilience. That's supposed to be the title of this particular slide, right? So Ethiopia holds a unique place in African history as the only African nation ever to be colonized. And again, we're going to talk about this more in depth tomorrow, Thursday, during our Ethiopian session. I'll break down that. But it was Ethiopian empire's rule under emperors, the Emperor Menelik II and Emperor Haile Selassie, successful resisting the European colonization. Most notably, the Battle of Italy, defeating Italy, in the Battle of Ottawa in 1896. So Ethiopia is like an important location, or it's a sense of pride for people of the African descent because they were able to reject outright colonization, right? There might be an asterisk there. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. So make sure you show up tomorrow. I get more in depth into that discussion, but that's an important thing to know about this particular region of the world of Africa, right? So in Kenya, here we go with the Mau Mau rebellion and the struggle for independence from the British rule, right? It was marked again by a movement by the Kikuyu people and other ethnic groups in the 1950s. This armed struggle was a critical part of Kenya's path to independence. So the independence of African nations started trickling in after 1957. That's when Ghana got its independence. It was the first African nation to gain its independence. And then after that, you start to see these uprisings and the fight for independence happening. And that's why you have a lot of these countries that were born or made free or giving their freedom in the 50s, 60s, and some in the 70s, as late as the 70s. And a lot of this, particularly in that Central African region and South African region along the western borders of Africa, has a lot to do with Fidel Castro, right? So many of you may know, may not know, I just got back from Cuba a week or so ago, maybe 10 days ago. and was learning more and more about the history, but they were instrumental in sending Shea and their revolutionary armies into Africa to teach them their tactics are centered around guerrilla warfare in order to fight for their freedom. And this kind of led to a lot of chain reactions, right? That led to eventually the freedom of many of these countries. But the Mau Mau Revolution is part of what happened there in Kenya for them to fight and gain their freedom as well. But you also had Tanzania and Zanzibar in the legacy of the Swahili coast out there. A strong, rich history of trade, culture, and the African Arab interactions, right? This is the African Arab slave trade, right? Really was dating back. But again, here we go with civilizations controlling trade routes through the Indian Ocean over there in that particular part was really important. But where did the Arab slave trade take the traffic of Africans, right? Anybody dare to venture to answer that in the comments? You could drop your thoughts down in the comments for me. Where did the Arab slave trade take trafficked Africans? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. There's no wrong answers, right? There's no wrong attempts, right? Let's see if y'all can think about it. You might be surprised. Y'all not engaging with me today? I should have started earlier and made y'all engage with me. Y'all just gonna make me work today, huh? I don't know how to stop this. Oh, I'm on camera. Oh, I haven't been sharing my screen. I never know when I'm sharing my screen or not. Okay. I got to get that together. I was going through the stuff. I had like slides for y'all and all of that. Okay, y'all wasn't even seeing it. Okay, you can see it now. All right. So y'all not gonna participate with me. Fine, I'll keep going then, right? All right. So okay, there you go. You have been sharing it, just went off a minute. Oh, okay, I stopped it. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Eric. I wasn't sure. All right, so where did they go though? This is always a good conversation. Oh, Southern Europe. All right, I'm glad we waited. Southern Europe. Oh, somebody got their hand up. Come on, Marcia. Unmute and answer. Did you want to answer? I just saw your hand pop up. Or you just got a question for later? Maybe you got a question for later. Middle East. All right, that's a good one. All right, so let's dive into it. So where did now one, I want you to know, I'm trying to cheat and see that I add this to the slide. I didn't. One, I want you to know that the Arab slave trade started 1,000 years before the Western slave trade, right? So when the Arabs came into the North region, we kind of talked about it a little bit during that particular discussion. When the Arabs came to the North region, right, Egypt, Tunisia, they went all the way across Morocco, Algiers, all of those nations up there, right? When you go there, if you come to Egypt with us or you come to Morocco with us next year, as well as our first time in Morocco next year, you're going to see a heavy Arab presence in these places. And that's because during the 7th century, the Arabs invaded or finally broke through and got into Africa, right? But when they came into Africa, they came with destruction, right? They came with destruction. They came to take it. They came as colonists, right? They came just like the European did, not to help out a people that needed help. They came in search of riches, wealth, land, and people. And that's what they did in the 7th century. They actually started their Eastern slave trade then. This is why I think, like, I'm gonna say it, right? I say things here, right? And I don't know how uncomfortable it's gonna make some of y'all, especially if it's your first time, but Christians catch a lot of flack from people because we talk about Christianity being involved in the Western slave trade. But Islam always get a pass. And they get a pass in the West because we don't know the history of Islam and their slave trade going east, right? And I know people are going to say, just like the Christians do, that slave trade ain't got nothing to do with the religion. Say what you want to say, but the individuals practicing these religions are using it as a fulcrum of our lever point in order to gain the hearts and the minds of the people that they're enslaving, right? So that's just history. Now I'm telling you, this ain't got nothing to do with your feelings. this is just what it is. But I feel like Islam typically gets a pass because we're ignorant to the history and the death and destruction that those practicing the religion inflicted on Africans on the continent, right? So the history goes goes east. The Arab slave trade goes east. Oh, did I go backwards? Oh, there we go. Here I go again. I didn't update the title. All right, so the title should be Where Did the Arab Slave Trade Take Traffic Africans, right? So ignore what I got up here right now. But to the Middle East. So I saw someone posted that. So they did go to the Middle East, Oman, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, and other parts of the Arabian Peninsula, the Persian Gulf, the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Indian subcontinent. They went into India, particularly in the coastal regions, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Southeastern Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, the Malay. I can't even pronounce that one, right? But my point is, all of these places that y'all be talking about, y'all want to go visit and support, like these people enslaved your folk for 1,000 years, right? They say that this slave trade ended in the mid 19th, not the late 19th century, in the early 20th century. But many people say the Eastern slave trade is still going on, right? I don't know. I ain't gonna argue and fuss and fight with y'all, but isn't it interesting? And then there's this video spinning around about the places with the largest African presence outside of Africa, right? So talking about Brazil being number one, the United States, you got the Caribbean islands and all of that. But then you got places like Yemen. Then you got places in the quote unquote Middle East. Then you got places in India, right? In these areas that's in there. And folks will say, well, how did those people get there? But that's that Eastern slave trade that we're not talking about or giving any credit to the reasoning, right? But that isn't where it just stopped. The islands of the Indian Ocean, right? Madagascar, Mauritania, Seychelles, right? Which is actually in Africa. Both are in Africa, right? Comoros and Reunion. I don't even know that location. But East Africa itself, right? So again, it stayed inside of Eastern Africa, Zanzibar, Swahili Coast, and inland regions. Far East, you got China, other parts of South Asia. But all of these areas have heavy African presence due to the Arabian or the Indian slave trade, the Arab slave trade taking them east, right? All right, good conversation, good insight there. All right, but do we travel to these areas in Sankofa experiences? Yes, of course we do. Not all of them, but here we'll talk a little bit about the ones that we actually go to so we can have these particular experiences. Now, what you're not going to see is any of the Central African countries on this list. We don't go there, not yet, right? I wouldn't advise going to the Congo just yet. There's just a lot of mess going on. So, and I love that piece about the Congo and rubber and actually uranium. I didn't even get to that part of the story that was unearthed in that area. So there's always been conflict in the Congo because somebody has always been trying to steal people, wealth, and resources out of that particular area. So today we see a lot of the conflict going on because of our precious iPhones and our precious screens, touch screens. They're getting that material out of the ground in order to create these Western nations, to create these a lot of our tech products, right? So it's always been an area of contention. Africa has always been an area of a contention, as Dr. Clark always says, because people have found out there's things in Africa that they won't. They decided they can't live without, and they don't want to pay for it, right? And I love that, brother, right? Dr. Clark's over my right shoulder, by the way, on my wall. But yes, we do travel to these particular areas, right? Starting with Ethiopia. So here is the pricing. If you're interested in going with Ethiopia, again, tomorrow Thursday, we're going to have an in-depth conversation about Ethiopia, the trip, all of the breakdown, and everything that you need to know in order to make a decision if you want to travel with us. But the visa application is an e-visa, or you can grab a visa, on arrival. There's no vaccinations needed. There are 2 dates available in 2025 that we're going, but the airport that you fly into is Addis Ababa. Bole International Airport. So that's what you will be seeking. If you need more details, you want more information now, you can always go to sankofaexperiences.com. Oh, there we go. Travel dates. Ashley dropped the travel dates down in the comments. So we're looking at October 9th through the 18th, 2025, and March 12th through the 20th, 2025. We are going to be in Ethiopia. So spaces are limited on those. So just kind of first come, first serve for anybody that's interested in going. Hopefully I'll see you Thursday and we'll talk about that. Kenya, right? So we're going into Kenya. There's beautiful safaris. There's wonderful food, great, strong history out there in the particular areas. But it's $47.99 is a starting price at Kenya. There's an e-visa application, no vaccines required. There's one date that we're going, and it's June 10th through the 18th, 2025. So anybody interested in going into Kenya and having that experience, please click the link. You can check out more information there. All the details on the breakdown of what we're doing per day, what it looks like, and where we're going is all on the website. I just don't have time here today to do this right now. Tanzania and Zanzibar, we're going there as well. Prices start at $49.89. E-visa application, so it's real easy. Yellow fever vaccine requirements is needed in Tanzania, right? So if you've had the yellow fever shot in the last 10 years, you're fine. There's rumored that you may not need it ever again, just like a one-time thing. I don't know any of that just yet. I stick to the 10-year rule right now. I took my first yellow fever shot in 2017. So I got a couple of years here before possibly I have to re-up mine personally. But there's one date available for Tanzania and Zanzibar. We're going to both places on that trip. Zanzibar, if you aren't aware, is an island off the coast of Tanzania. And it's part of the country of Tanzania, let me say that. But that date is June 20th through 29th of 2025, and all meals are included in that one. All right, any particular questions that you have for me, either for in general about the lecture, everything that I talked about here today, or any of the travel specific questions that you might have for us at Sankofa Experiences. You can unmute your phone. You can raise your Zoom hand and unmute and ask your question directly, or you can drop your comments or your questions, excuse me, down in the comments, and I'll be sure to pick them up as well. All right, don't be shy, good people. Going once, going twice. All right. Almost, Ashley, I almost did it in 30 minutes, right? No, I didn't. I lied. It's 38 minutes on my ticker. All right. So if you don't have any questions, you can always send an email to support@sankofaexperiences.com. That's support@sankofaexperiences with an S.com. Ashley's going to drop that email down there drop that email below. There we go. support@sankofaexperiences.com. If you're interested in learning more about any of our trips, you can go to sankofaexperiences.com and click the links. You will see all the information there available. If you follow Urban Intellectuals on YouTube, we're going to repost this there. And what else am I thinking about? If you're in the Facebook group, you will see that they are there as well. So we have to organize them. I forget what they call it, by guides or something, actually, so we can start getting our information all collected together here, centered around Travel Talks. But I appreciate y'all joining me today. Y'all quiet on me today. That's all right. You must had a long weekend, right? We had that 3-day weekend for Labor Day. That's all right. But we are here to answer any questions or concerns that you have centered around travel or Black history for that matter. This has been another edition of our Travel Talk Show. It's our weekly talk show centered around Black history, travel, experiences. Again, I'm your host, Freddie Taylor, the CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals. It's my pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to you about traveling, about Africa, about our history, our culture, our people, and the experiences that we are having along the way. So I appreciate y'all joining me today. Again, if you have any questions, you can shoot an email to support@sankofaexperiences.com. Greetings, I'm Freddie Taylor, CEO and founder of Urban Intellectuals, and we are behind the Sankofa experiences. This is where Black history travel made easy is not just our mantra, it's a promise. Our mission? To reconnect you with your roots, your culture, and the history of the African diaspora. Now spanning across 10 African nations and the vibrant cultures of Colombia and Brazil, the Sankofa experiences is expanding. We've crafted curated group travel experiences that do more than just visit. They immerse, they educate, they transform. From the historic forts of Ghana to the bustling markets of Nigeria, the serene beaches of the Gambia to the rugged mountains of Morocco, and beyond, even South Africa and South America, each destination holds a special place and part of our story. Embarking on these Sankofa journeys means more than just exploring more landscapes. It means walking in the footsteps of the ancestors, embracing the diversity of our heritage, and seeing the world through a lens of understanding and appreciation. It's a group experience where every traveler is a thread in the fabric of the shared narrative, making the journey safe, engaging, and unforgettable. So are you ready to embark on this adventure? To explore, to learn, to celebrate the legacy that connects us all. Join us in the Sankofa experiences, proudly powered by Urban Intellectuals. The only thing missing is you. The only thing missing is you. We appreciate you being here for Travel Talks today. Until next week, good people. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow at my Our History Started Before Slavery discussion. And on Thursdays, we talk about traveling to Ethiopia. So check your emails, make sure you are connected to the organization. But we appreciate you. Till next time, good people. Love, peace, and power to the people. Later, everybody.